2K believes the Detroit Pistons will finish as the top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference this year. Is that a realistic outcome? We'll break it down in today's episode, Locked On Pistons Podcast. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Ku Khahil. I've been covering the Detroit Pistons for the last 4 years for the Locked On Network, being credential media member over the last 3 years. And I appreciate all of you guys who make Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season starts tonight when I'm recording this. Might get posted on Friday, so might actually not be tonight. But when we're recording this, Thursday Night Football will be started. Philadelphia versus the Dallas Cowboys. I think Philly is going to take that win, and I need Jalen Hurts to go crazy. I have him starting my fantasy team. But new customers can bet just $5 with FanDuel, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. Download the FanDuel app at FanDuel.com to get started. Today, we are joined by a friend of the podcast, Czar at Bully Ball Media. We'll be discussing a 2K simulation that Locked On did, where the Pistons finished the top 3 seed. They make a few trades mid-season. We'll talk about whether that's actually possible in real life. And then also we'll give an update on Malik Beasley's status. We got a minor update a few days ago. We'll discuss it as well. But Czar, how are you doing, man? Let everyone know what you've been doing. Just real quickly, before we get into the podcast, I need you to tell everybody what you've been doing the last few weeks.
Well, Cade is out the bag. Yeah, I started doing pro wrestling training about a week ago, actually. And it's at Grind Time Pro Wrestling. Shout out to Grind Time. It's Truth Martini, Alex Shelley of the Motor City Machine Guns, and Darren McCarty, self-explanatory. They all work to keep this place going and train pro wrestlers and everything like that. And it's super cool. I randomly I was just like I came back from Japan in late July, almost August, and I was like, I'm gonna be so for real with you guys. The job market is cooked. It's just cooked. And I was just like, look, at this point, like I'm going to give this a shot because I've always loved pro wrestling. That's like basketball and pro wrestling, music and movies. Those were always my things. Um, you know, just like above me is the proof. And I was like, if I'm ever gonna give this a shot, why not now? Like I just graduated from MSU and I did the traditional thing and I'm still doing everything else I'm doing, and it allows me to like continue to have a normal life while still training like not a normal person. So it's super cool, honestly. Like it's a lot of work, it's a lot of dedication. I haven't had like something fun in terms of food in like 2 3 weeks, but it's cool. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, we're wishing you the best of luck. I hope to see you wrestling back in LCA in a few years, but we'll see what happens. All right, let's get into this 2K simulation. So, like I said, Locked On had a 2K simulation where they simmed through the entire season, and we're going to see what the results were, and then we're going to talk about them after. And we're going to do that today. So, what we're going to start off with is where the Pistons finished in the Eastern Conference. After one full season of simulation, the Pistons finished as the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference. They made it to the playoffs, obviously, against first round series was against the Boston Celtics as the 6th seed. Now, Czar, if I just told you that was the outcome, before revealing what the outcome was in the playoffs, if that was the outcome of this season, how successful of a year do you think that would be?
Extremely. I mean, like being a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. Granted, the Eastern Conference is not exactly even where it was this past year. Is still a huge improvement. And for a team that didn't necessarily take much of a big swing this offseason, having internal development take you that far would really speak volumes to the potential that this young core has. And also like the quality of the signings that they made this past summer that, were certainly scrutinized by some. And I think it goes to show that this is a foundation for a team that can genuinely be a contender in the Eastern Conference.
So these were the numbers of the young guys before I reveal what happened in the first round. Cade Cunningham, the following season or this year coming up, averaged 28 points a game, 8.4 assists, 5.9 rebounds. He shot 56% from the floor. I like this would be absolutely tremendous. 56% from the floor, 45% from three. That's what 2K had.
Cade turned into the GOAT.
Yeah, he turned into like the greatest of all time. So then you got Jaden Ivey, who averaged 20 points a game, 6.9 assists a game, and he shot 53% of the floor and 38% from three. And then you had Asar Thompson, who made all defensive first team along with his brother. The rest of the first team was Giannis, Victor Wembanyama, Amen and Asar, and Chet Holmgren. So you get big steps from all the young guys. You get Cade taking a big step forward. You had Jaden Ivey taking a step forward. You had Asar Thompson securing himself as one of the best defenders in the league. And that got the Pistons to a first round appearance. In the first round, sadly, they lost in 7 to the Boston Celtics in the first round. So, sorry, if the Pistons were to have made the playoffs with all these improvements, they're a top 3 seed in the East, and they go down in 7 games in the first round, would you still consider that a success?
Yeah, I mean it's hard not to. Like, they're such a young team where if that hypothetical, first of all, you didn't have anything to do with this simulation.
No, no,
You didn't play.
no,
Okay, I
no.
just
I
need
had
to know that
nothing to do
you
with it
didn't
at all.
cheese the settings or something.
No, no,
Okay.
no, no, no. No settings, no game sliders, no nothing.
um, but yeah, no, I mean, regardless, winning in 7 means you at least won a singular game at home, which is an improvement on the last, what, 20 years
Yeah,
almost. It's still an improvement. Obviously, it would be disappointing to lose in the first round again, especially being in the inverse where you're the third seed, instead of being the sixth seed. But I still, it would be hard to say that's a failure of a season when you have that much internal development and that much growth. I feel like it just gives you the blueprint for what you need to do moving
yeah.
forward.
I think it would definitely still be a successful season. Obviously, losing the first round as a 3 seed would be pretty tough to swallow. I think a lot of people would be then. I think the following offseason, people would be asking for maybe another move to happen, or they'd be asking for more aggression, if that were to happen. But getting to a 3 seed in general would be tremendous for this team, and getting into the first round, going 7 games, I think it would be tough to swallow after it happened, but give it a few weeks. I think everyone would accept that this was a major step in the right direction. Everyone would feel good about this team. Now I want to segue to real life. Do you think this is a possible scenario where the Pistons end up as a 3 seed? I think the top 2 seeds in the East are pretty cemented. I think it's New York and Cleveland, as of right now. But do you think it's possible? Like, do you see a future where the Pistons actually do end up as a 3 seed this year?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Eastern Conference, like, let's just be so honest, is not good this upcoming season,
Right.
like in any stretch of the imagination. In my eyes, their competition for a 3 to 5 seed is Orlando. Um, I might end the list there. Like, I don't see I I don't see much competition in the top 5 of the Eastern Conference. Will there be teams that maybe, you know, find themselves in a playoff position that didn't last season, thinking towards Toronto or Charlotte? Sure. But I don't know how much I expect from Boston this year. I think maybe 6 seed is realistic. I could see them kind of in the play-in range as well. I think the best thing for them, honestly, would be just completely bottoming out for the season and getting a high draft pick, but that's neither here nor there. To me, I think the biggest concern I had for this season was the lack of kind of direction it seemed like Trajan took in the offseason. It seemed like it was very much a standing pat while still changing out pieces. Granted, Malik Beasley, and we'll probably get into this, may be coming back, but replacing him with Duncan Robinson and then losing Dennis for nothing, even though potentially, allegedly, Malik Monk was on the table, and then also losing Tim Hardaway Jr. These were all moves that were like, okay, like, you brought in Karras and Duncan, sure, and now you also brought in Javante Green, and is there someone else I'm forgetting?
Jane Ivey's return. Yeah, make sure you mention that because
Yeah,
everyone's gonna bring
yeah.
that one up.
Yeah, but in terms of actual signings, like, that's Ellen bringing back Paul Reed. Um, it's just like it wasn't necessarily an offseason that addressed the concerns that already were there with the team as is. Because he stood pat while still not adding to, their weaknesses. And to me, their weakness was at the power forward position, having that steep drop off whenever Tobias checked out or games where he was injured. I really felt like that was something they needed to address, and they didn't really do that. My opinion on this team changes drastically if Malik Beasley returns because, in my eyes, you make up for your lack of depth at the four with just elite shooting around Cade. Because obviously Duncan Robinson is an elite shooter, but adding Malik Beasley, who's coming off of one of the greatest 3-point shooting seasons of all time, that drastically changes things for me. Where now I can say at least this team has like a solid identity offensively, and then also fills their weaknesses by strengthening other things.
Yeah, I think that I think that it's certainly possible, but it would have to happen. The only way it could happen is if what we just outlined, like 2K said happened, that would have to be what happens. Like Cade would have to jump into a top 10 discussions in the NBA, become uber efficient, become a great, he's already a great player, but become like the next step of great player. Jaden Ivey would have to take this step that everyone believes that he can take and remain efficient, or even get more efficient. And Asar Thompson would have to realize his potential this year. All of that would have to happen, I think, for them to be able to make this third seed. Because I do believe right now my betting favorite for third seed is Orlando. I really like what they've done. They had a lot of injuries last year. I think they're going to be healthier this year. I'm going to take Orlando at the 3. But if the Pistons get improvements from Cade and get improvements from Jaden Ivey and get improvements from Asar Thompson, and these veterans stabilize, the spots that THJ and Malik also stabilized last year, then yeah, it's certainly possible. But like we've said many times in the podcast over the last few months, I kind of feel like I'm repeating myself, is that you can't really predict internal development. You just kind of have to hope for it. So it's hard for me to sit here and say it's going to happen. But if they do get that internal development from Cade, Jaden Ivey, Asar, Duran, all of them take a step forward like this simulation had, then yeah, certainly they can make a top 4, top 3 seed push in the Eastern Conference, especially if they have a guy who's an MVP type player in Cade shooting 100% from the field, like 2K, like was it 56% of the field? Like if that happens, then yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But coming up, I want to discuss 2 trades. I didn't mention this. 2 trades the Pistons made midseason that might have helped them reach the third seed. We'll discuss what those trades are and whether we could potentially see real life trades at the deadline this upcoming season. We'll discuss it coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel, and again, like I said, it might have already started by the time I post this episode. Philadelphia Eagles versus the Dallas Cowboys for Thursday Night Football, hoping the Eagles and Jalen Hurts go crazy because I have them on my fantasy team. FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And there's a bet that I'm looking at, some odds that I'm looking at, I think you guys will really like. The Detroit Lions are no longer the heavy favorites to win the NFC North after the Packers got Micah Parsons. Those odds have changed. I think the Lions will still win the division, but they have better odds for you to take now. So I would still take Lions to win the division. I think you guys should go check it out. I don't think Green Bay will overtake them, but we'll see what happens. That's the kind of thing you can do over at FanDuel. I've been using it for years. Super self-explanatory, super easy to use, but most importantly, super fun to use. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app and to place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app with FanDuel. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. So now we're going to move into Czar. Your camera's gone. You good?
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't know what
You're
was
back.
going on there. Yeah.
we were talking to a gray screen for a minute. but
Yeah.
All right. So in this simulation, I did not bring up that midway through the year, the Pistons made 2 trades. I'm going to tell you what these 2 trades were. And now in the simulation, actually, what's even more interesting, the Pistons were the only team to make a trade at the deadline, and they made 2 of them in the entire league in this simulation. It was pretty interesting. But I'm going to tell you guys the 2 trades. We'll talk about whether we could see the Pistons making these 2 type of trades. And then we'll segue into if we think the Pistons will be making deals at the deadline in real life. So the 2 trades were, first one was involving the Philadelphia 76ers. Zara, do you have any idea? I bring up the Sixers. Do you have a good guess at what you think they did?
Well, just knowing 2K Sims and doing an absurd amount of them, I'm just gonna go ahead and assume either the Sixers offered Paul George for like Tobias and a second round pick or something, or I would assume it was something like, is Kelly Oubre still on the Sixers?
I believe so.
Okay, well, yeah, I was gonna say him and a first round pick for like Jaden Ivey would probably like be something that 2K throws out there.
So the you were right with the first one. The first one was actually really close. It was Paul George and Kyle Lowry for Tobias Harris and Duncan Robinson. The Pistons made that trade. That was the first trade they made. So they swapped out Tobias and Duncan Robinson. They bring in Paul George and they bring in Kyle Lowry to shore up the backup point guard position. They try to get Cade, I guess, another cold start with Paul George. We'll even though Paul George was really not very good this past year, but they made that trade. The next trade they made, this one you're going to be really upset about. You're gonna be really upset, and I think everyone listening will.
Let me take a guess here.
Go ahead.
Is it Isaiah Stewart for like some straight just something that would never happen in real life?
Yes, yes. It's Isaiah
Yeah,
Stewart and the Pistons 2026 first round pick, lottery protected, for to the Rockets for the Nets 2027 first round pick and Steven Adams. That's the second trade they made.
interesting.
So
Uh,
I guess the point of it is they get a really good first round pick from the Nets in 2027, I guess, in exchange for a lottery protected first. I guess that's the only motivation I can see for why they would, what this even does. Maybe Steven Adams turned into a superstar in this league or something, and it was, but that's the two
I
trades
will
they made.
say, yeah, I will say, this has nothing to do with what we're about to talk about. In terms of 2K trades, that those are not some of the worst ones I've ever
Oh
heard.
no,
Like
yeah,
these sound like something that like they use like some chat GBT type stuff where they just like threw some Shams tweets in there. Because I never heard of them like trading for protected first for another team's first. Like that stuff usually doesn't
yeah,
happen. It's like a first for like Kelly Olynyk for some reason. Like so
right.
it's okay. That's shout out to 2K on that
No,
one.
it's not as bad. No, yeah, they're for sure not
Yeah.
as bad as I've seen before. But I'll ask you this before we move into whether we think they can make some trades in real life. How do you feel about these two trades? Obviously, it must have led to them being a top. If they were to make these two trades, what are your reactions immediately after?
First one, I was about to say something that would probably get me in trouble. Uh, I was, um, f- the words "crack pipe" were on the tip of my tongue. Um, yeah. First one, like there's a gas leak in the Pistons front office or something. Like I don't know what's going on in there, but like something has gone wrong deeply to the point where it needs like federal investigation if a trade like that happens because taking on Paul George and Kyle Lowry while giving up Tobias and Duncan, who are both potentially expirings, certainly is interesting
Paul George's
for a team
contract, by
that's
the way, is 51 this year, 54 the next year, and player option for 57 the next year. And he's going to be 35, 36, 37 years old.
yeah, or something. It's either a gas leak, drugs, or Daryl Morey got on the phone with like the sound of a pistol loading, and it's getting real, it's getting real serious in those trade negotiations. Because it won't be about basketball at that point. Because there's just no
Fair enough.
way that ever happens. Yeah.
So what about the
Um,
Stu one?
For the stew one, I personally would think that's it's a horrible idea in almost any Isaiah Stewart trade. That being said, getting s- pretty good rim protector, rebounder, and also a 2027 first round pick would be great. Also ironic in the sense that Stu would go back to the team that technically we traded for the draft rights from
Right.
in Houston back in 2020. So trading a protected first back to Houston again would be really funny. That would be a really funny way to go about it. And Isaiah Stewart. Obviously, any Isaiah Stewart trade I think is a bad idea, but I don't think it's necessarily as bad as the Tobias Harris Paul George swap.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Paul George one, I would have, unless Paul George has returned to superstardom in this 2K sim for some reason. That would be horrible. This contract is bad. He was not good this past year. And 51, 54, 56 player option, that would just be like I no, can't do it. Can't do it. Especially without any picks attached to it. Like you're not even taking picks on to take on that contract. I couldn't do it. The Stu one, I would not do this. I don't think anyone in the Pistons community probably would do this. But I do think this one at least makes a little bit of sense. Like you're getting
Yeah.
a Brooklyn Nets first round pick in 27 for Stu, which is I think most people believe is going to be pretty valuable. So you're getting like a first round pick for Stu, and you're also getting a really good backup center in Steven Adams. Now Stu is younger on a good contract. I think most people believe Stu's better, but like getting a first round pick from the Nets and Stu and Steven Adams, like I don't think that's oh, how dare you send this to me? I'm hanging up the phone. I'm blocking your number forever. Like I think you can like see the sense, I guess, in that. I mean, like you said, I feel like 2K's AI got a little better because that at least resembles somewhat of like what I guess I could see maybe. But I wouldn't do either of these. But the Paul George one is just like the worst one of all time. But let's move into, do you think the Pistons could make a trade like this? Not for Paul George or Steven, but do you think in real life at the deadline we could see the Pistons pulling the trigger on a trade this season?
I think it depends. Trajan, I really was expecting something out of this offseason in terms of trades. Granted, there were things that kind of threw a wrench in their potential plans, but I just don't know how much he's looking to improve via trade in the near future. Just because I don't think he seems willing to let go of any idea of potential. And I feel like this is again similar to last season, where it's a season where he wants to see how far this team can go from beginning to end, barring like any drastic change and like them. If they overperform, I don't think again they trade, but if they grossly underperform, then maybe that's a conversation. But if they're right about where Trajan and the fan base generally expects them to be, I don't really see them making any trades. Like I know that's kind of been a topic amongst like articles that I've read, is just like the fact that yes, they didn't do anything this past offseason in terms of trades, but the Pacers at the trade deadline a couple years ago got Pascal Siakam and stuff like that. Where I just don't see that really happening. Trajan doesn't, to me, appear to be a very like aggressive or president of basketball operations, and I feel like he's someone who really kind of believes in patience and seeing his vision through. And for that, I can't really see him going out and pushing the chips in on pretty much anything.
So there's two situations or two scenarios where I could see the Pistons making a deal at the deadline. And I agree with you that if they are meeting expectations, like they're not overly exceeding and they're not underwhelming, if they're just meeting the expectations he had, I think it's likely that they just don't make any trades. I think that's the most likely scenario. But there's two scenarios where I could see a trade happening, and it's the ones you outlined. If they are if they are exceeding expectations, if they are playing much better than they thought they were going to, but it's coming in form of like Cade takes a step, Asar takes a step. Let's just say Ivey takes a step and Duran doesn't. He takes a step backwards. Maybe that's when they're like, okay, we're gonna keep Ivey, Cade, Asar, and we're gonna move on from Duran. Or just reverse it. Maybe it's Cade, Asar, Duran, and Ivey isn't getting to where you want him to be. He's struggling. He didn't take the step forward. I can see them saying, okay, we're playing really well. We identified these three guys. We know which guy is not working out really well. If we move this guy for something else, maybe we can really do something. That's one scenario where I could see them making a deal. Something like that, where they're taking a step forward, but it's because of certain players and the players you're trying to find out answers on, you're getting the answer of they're not really fitting in here. That's scenario number one. Scenario number two is they're severely underperforming, and it's because these guys aren't taking a step forward. Like if Cade is still Cade, let's say Asar doesn't meet expectations, he takes a step back, or Ivey takes a step back, Duran takes a step back, and therefore the team is like not exceeding and not playing well. I think Trajan will make a decision on a few of those guys at the deadline and move on from them. But it would take like those two extremes, I think, to see them make a trade. Either they're exceeding expectations a ton and you got to answer one of these guys not being, part of the core, or they're really underperforming and multiple guys haven't taken a step forward like you wanted, and you got answers on them, and now you need to move them. I think those are only two scenarios. If they're meeting expectations or they're just hovering around like maybe the 5th or 4th seed, playing fine basketball, I don't know if we see any kind of, I don't know if we see any kind of trade happen. Because I agree with you. Trajan said a lot about patience, and he doesn't seem like he's an uber aggressive guy. So those are the only two scenarios I could see a real deal happening. But coming up, I want to discuss with Czar this latest Malik Beasley update we got. Is it looking like he could return to the Detroit Pistons this upcoming season? We'll talk about it coming up. So I want to thank you guys again, make Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. And I am hoping, Czar, I am very much hoping that this is the final time I have to discuss a Malik Beasley update. I'm hoping this is the final. I'm just hoping this, whether he signs somewhere else or whatever, I just want this to be resolved, because I'm going to be real with everyone listening. I am not comfortable talking about another person's financials all the time. This is not comfortable for me. I do not like the fact that it seems like I am pocket watching another man's, financial situation. It's I don't like this. And I feel like I've talked about it now like 10 times in the last 2 weeks, and I very much would not like to do so. But we have another update with Malik Beasley, and it has to be like, I can't just not talk about it because it does impact the Pistons. According to some reports and his lawyer, Malik Beasley is back in Detroit. I don't want to really get into why he's back in Detroit. Just know he's back in Detroit, into the place he lives. He's trying to restore, I guess, some of his financial situation. So he's back in Detroit right now. And along with that update, we got a statement from his lawyer that says that Beasley is trying to restore his good standing, and that Malik loves Detroit, has family in the city, does not want to close the door on a possible reunion. He was a great Piston, and he loves the city of Detroit. So with that said, Czar, do you think we are going to see Malik Beasley back on the Detroit Pistons this year?
One would sure hope so. Um, I I'm very happy that Malik is able to even be in the position to be having a reunion with the Detroit Pistons, potentially, because I worked with him a lot this past season, and he's generally just good people. And it was tough to see the situation, so I'm glad things are being resolved. That being said, the Detroit Pistons can't offer him at the current moment the amount of money that they were initially going to give him. Um, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's Golden State and Brooklyn that can exceed Detroit's offers for him currently.
Yeah, those two
And
teams, and I think there's like 2 or 3 other teams that still have their MLE available. But no team has like outright cap space besides the Nets. But yes, you are correct.
yeah, so to me, that speaks to what the market is for Malik currently. Like, could he take a minimum to go play in Cleveland or New York potentially? Yes, definitely. Does he want to do that? I can't imagine he would. I know Malik loves Detroit. Detroit really loves Malik. If you look at any comment section of any post for the Detroit Pistons since this whole thing has been cleared up, they can't post anything without the comments being "resign Malik," and for good reason. Like, he had an incredible season. He is beloved. He has still the Savvy Sliders meal, I'm pretty sure. It's just he's like an actual. It feels like he's an actual Detroiter, even though he grew up in Atlanta, spent time in Detroit. It feels like he's a Detroiter, and I'm sure he wants to get something done. It's just ultimately up to Trajan and the Pistons, kind of coming to that agreement as well.
Yeah, I look, this whole situation is very, I've said it before, it's very unfortunate for Malik. If nothing at all comes of this, I would like look into, I'm sure he probably can't do anything, but like he's been costed like $40 million. Like, he could have had $40 million in his bank account. Like, it's just, I feel bad for him, especially if nothing at all comes of this. I really am just hoping this whole situation gets wrapped up somehow, some way, I really don't. I'm not enjoying talking about it. I don't like having to talk about all these updates over and over. It's not fun. It's not cool. I think where we're at right now, and where we're at right now, it feels like teams are still trying to figure out what exactly is going on with this investigation, because like we mentioned a few episodes ago, he wasn't completely cleared. He went from the target to the subject, whatever that means. But apparently that was enough to, have teams confident that they can start talking to him. And apparently he's been in talks with NBA teams. My question is, why hasn't he been signed by somebody yet? So it seems like to me that they're still kind of a little bit hesitant and they want to see like what's left, what's going on. Like, seems like there's momentum to something happening, but teams are still trying to figure out all the details of what's exactly happening. The Pistons, like you mentioned, they can offer a 1 year, $7 million deal. Other teams can offer a little bit more than him, or more than the Pistons. A few teams have the full MLE of $14 million. We'll see if they actually have interest in him. But there's been multiple reports that Malik wants to return to Detroit. He loves the city. There's been reports that Trajan and the Pistons have kept communication open with him and that they are open to bringing him back. And that's why they've left this roster spot open. So I would, as of right now, if I had to go like lean one way, I would lean towards him probably coming back. And all the potential concerns I've brought up before about will there be enough minutes for him, Duncan, and Karis LeVert, as I've said in those episodes, like you can consider all those things and then you still sign him anyways. Like, you sign him anyways. You don't pass up on not signing him, especially to that type of deal where you then would have his rights the following offseason. You don't pass that up. You just figured all that stuff out later. Having Malik would be fantastic with Duncan and him on the floor with Cade. Like, that could be some really great spacing. I would be really interested to see it. But overall, I'm hoping this is my last take on it, is that I just hope Malik gets all this cleared up. Everything gets resolved. He finds a team, whether it be the Pistons or someone, and this all goes away, and he's able to kind of get his NBA career back started up, and he's able to, have a successful on and off the court career moving forward, and all this stuff is like out the way. Because this has been too much. I'm sure this has been too much for Pistons fans. I can't even imagine what it's been for Malik. Like, Malik is probably who knows, but hope this all gets resolved. We'll see if he ends up back in Detroit. Czar, let everybody know where they can find you, your work, and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Let me add just one thing to the Malik thing
Go
real
ahead.
quick. Because just to show like how really loved Malik is just by the fan base generally. When I was in Japan, I went to the Jordan store and there was like this little thing where you do like a photo thing in front of a green screen, whatever. And we were getting asked where we're from. And when I said Detroit, because they don't even know Michigan really generally, like when you say Detroit, they're like, oh, okay. I said Detroit. They're like, oh, like we have a guy here who's like a big Piston, or no, not Pistons fan. He said, oh, he loves Detroit. So then they bring him in and he's like, oh, like Detroit, no way. Like, I'm a Pistons fan. I was like, no way. Like, I cover the team, and he couldn't believe it, right? He comes back with an actual like Malik Beasley shimmy like shirt, like the shirt that they put out with him with the shimmy.
That's
And
crazy.
he's like, this is my favorite player. Like, I hope he comes back. I love him. Like, it was really cool. And it was really honestly like a super sweet moment. And it goes to show just generally like how beloved he is by the fan base. So I'm really hoping both sides can come to agreement sometime soon. That being said, at Zark Xavier on everything, at Real Bully Ball on everything as well. I appreciate you having me on. I'm a bit rusty with the podcast stuff. I haven't done one in like probably a couple months now.
I mean, when you're
Just in a
getting
bit
ready
of a
for the big leagues,
sabbatical.
you're getting ready
Yeah,
for
you know what I'm saying?
taking clotheslines from hell.
Dude, I got slammed on my actual face yesterday. It was not fun.
Bro, see, you're crazy. Everyone
Yeah.
in the comment section, listening on podcast, everyone, let me know, would you be able to go through this? Like, would you be able to actually go through with having like WWE training? I would not be able to go through with actually professional wrestling training. I feel like I would walk home after the second day, broken bones, bruises, all like no, couldn't do it. But we wish Czar the best. We wish him the most success possible in this, and hopefully, again, maybe we see him on the big screen someday. But appreciate all of you guys making Locked On Pistons your first listen every single day. free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Stay safe out there, and peace out, everybody.